$1,000 a week for life. He was young and wanted to travel. He dropped out of school and has spent his entire adulthood basically seeing the world. He comes home to visit every few years and we FaceTime with him when he is near a signal. He doesn't travel first class or stay in expensive resorts, so he has actually built up some nice savings. He came home with a girlfriend, Haley, 28, this year. They met when they got stuck in South America during the pandemic. She has been traveling since she graduated from university and she works out of a laptop. I, F54, live in the same city where I was born. I love it here. I love being close to my parents and my grandchildren. And most of my siblings. Mark hated being the youngest of 8 and always swore he would not have kids. Our parents were older when they had him and they didn't have the energy for him, truth be told. Mark came home when he was 30 and told us all that he had had a vasectomy and that he would not be contributing to the world population. Haley is a pretty young thing and she is also intelligent and sweet. I can understand why anyone would fall in love with her. We were having a family BBQ to celebrate Mark being in town. There were maybe 30 people in my parents' yard and house. I was talking to Haley about her future plans now that the world opened up again. She said that she was ready to settle down and start a family. I asked if they were planning on adopting from one of the countries that they had traveled to or if they would try in North America. She said they had talked about it and would be having at least one child of their own. This may be where I fucked up. I asked where Mark got his vasectomy reversed or if they were having in vitro fertilization. I know they can harvest sperm from a testicle even after a vasectomy. She went very quiet and went over to Mark. They spoke and they left. Mark called me later that night to scream at me for ruining his life. He hadn't told her and he was planning on just continuing to travel and maybe adopt if they decided on it. He said I shared private medical information and that he never wanted to see me again. I apologized over and over. I seriously had no way of knowing that he was planning a future with this girl without telling her a pretty big piece of the puzzle might be missing. I feel bad for him, but I think he should have told her. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Your brother is a self-centered jerk. He was just going to lie and string that poor girl along. Thank you so much for telling her the truth even if it was an accident. God, what an $1 your brother is. Shame on him. Please tell everyone he dates that he has had a vasectomy. OP. He's usually not in the country. OP on how old the girlfriend was when her brother met her. OP. I think she was 25 when they met. Comment 2. I mean, did you slip up or did you know you were kicking a wasp's nest? OP. They have been together for almost 3 years and are planning one biological kid. I assumed it must have come up. Comment 3. So they talked about it and he didn't bring it up on his own terms at all? Wouldn't that have been the time for him to tell his partner about the vasectomy? Update. My brother now refuses to visit our parents if I'm around because I accidentally told his girlfriend at the time that he had a vasectomy when she told me that they were trying for kids. So it wasn't that he was planning on reversing his vasectomy or anything. He wanted to do the same as that poor woman's boyfriend. Just lead her on until it was too late for her to have kids. He came by this summer with his girlfriend and I stayed away. I guess he told this one that he and I have a bad relationship and that I'm jealous of his riches, LOL, after his lottery win. I'm not going to do anything about it, but I hope she finds out before he screws her future as well. Sort of a funny thing though. His lottery money may run out soon. It turns out that he should have paid more attention. The money he won was $1,000 a week for life and was actually only for 25 years. He does have savings, so he shouldn't be destitute or anything, but he also does not have a pension or anything. I am interested to see what happens in 4 years. Comments. Comment 1. You might have spilled the beans, but it looks like his secret was bound to come out sooner or later anyway. It's cool that you're not trying to get involved, but hoping his girlfriend finds out shows you still care about her. Comment 2. Where are your parents on this? If I knew my sons were this manipulative and deceitful, I'd be disgusted. I'd also be telling every single woman he brings home, which means they'd vanish, I'm sure. Am I the asshole for breaking up with my unmotivated girlfriend who has nothing going for her and might become homeless? I, male 24, met a girl, female 22, in a community college class when I was 20. We came from very different backgrounds. I was middle class trying to find a cheaper way to go to college. She was living in almost poverty going to school because she was forced to by her parents who were threatening to kick her out. She dropped out about a year into her schooling while I continued and finished. During her first year we formed a relationship and she moved into my apartment more or less. Her relationship with her parents is pretty much non-existent and she has little to no outside friends besides 1 or 2 women she knew from high school, who are deadbeats in my opinion. I make around $80K a year, so we live relatively comfortably, but there's still some strain on finances. I can't say exactly when I started losing feelings, but the fact that she refuses to work, will not cook and wants to eat out every day, does not want to go to school, and continuously wants to buy and spend money on clothes and other stuff just slowly started grating me more and more. I work in a female-dominated workplace, and having conversations, and interacting with co-workers who have so much going for them, have fun hobbies, and aspirations makes it all the more worse when your girlfriend is chronically online and spends 7 hours a day scrolling through Instagram or TikTok reels and thinks having sex is all she needs to do on her end. Our relationship isn't bad. We have fights every now and then like an average couple, have an active sex life, but that's pretty much it. From her perspective, if I broke up with her it would be out of nowhere, but I'm pretty much done, and now I could move on quickly and have nothing to be regretful about, as shitty as it sounds. The problem comes in her having no job, no finances, almost no friends, and no family support unit. I'm not a monster. I don't want to make someone virtually homeless, but I don't want to be stuck with someone who has nothing going for them either. I don't know what to do. Edit. Thank you for all the advice in this post. I don't know if this sub allows updates, but I'll talk to her tomorrow about this and start the process of working this out. Relevant comments. OP explains. Yeah, if she was a toxic or just bad partner I wouldn't have too much trouble ending it. But she's fairly nice, just very lazy. I've tried to talk her into trying different hobbies or interests to get her active, but she always turns them down each time. How long? She wasn't as bad when we were still in school. She at least helped cook and had some aspirations to be a nurse. But I guess when she started getting comfortable her habits built on until it got to this point. This wouldn't have been a 4-year relationship if this was how it started. She only leaves the apartment when I take her to get food. She either sleeps or is on her phone. Is she miserable with her life? She's not really miserable. She always sends me 30+ memes at work on IG, and is honestly a pretty funny person. She has her mood swings on some days, but that's how she usually is. I've tried talking to her about this more than once, but she either thinks I'm not being serious or tries to change the subject. The one time I was serious she said would try looking at courses again, but it eventually fell through and I stopped trying. She just doesn't really care. Update 1. For starters, I want to thank everyone for all the advice I was given on the last thread, as it helped me formulate how I would go about doing this. When I made that post I was having an extremely bad day and didn't expect it to blow up like it did, so I don't think I was able to give her a fair defense. Also, I got dozens of messages, ranging from asking me to hand out her contact info so they could take her in as a live-in sex girlfriend, to helpful advice telling me to start hiding anything valuable. When I had said that she had come from poverty, her father is a laborer while her mother also lives a similar lifestyle to how she lives now. Their home is maybe 1,100 square feet and in a terrible place in town, and given her father's past ultimatum, I don't think he will take her back, as she hasn't been back home in years. Yes, I have talked to her about this, since January, maybe 3 times. Either by gently telling her it would be nice if she went out more to find a hobby, at the very least to flat out say she was wasting away on her phone and that she needs to get a job or go back to school. Each time she either changes the subject, makes it a joke, or follows through for a couple of days before going back to her usual self. She is a kind partner, who asks me about my day, always tries to make me laugh or lighten the mood when I get annoyed, and generally shows a lot of affection. Which makes me feel terrible when none of that works anymore, and I just see her as another person. Now for the confrontation. Last night when we were both getting ready for bed, I didn't take my clothes off and instead just stood there telling her we needed to talk. At first she was just smiling and jumping up and down on the bed with her knees, thinking I wasn't as serious as I was, but eventually she was able to read the mood. I told her something wasn't feeling right anymore, that I've tried to make this work and be patient with her for the past few years, but I didn't know how much more time I was willing to spend waiting for her to get a job, go back to school, or just get a hobby if anything. I told her that it annoyed and grated me that she just didn't seem to care about herself, and that I hated that she had no goals or aspirations. This was probably the first time in a long time she was as attentive as she's ever been during this conversation, and agreed to whatever I was saying, even also giving suggestions on where she can apply, what courses were starting to interest her, and even said I could look over her as she submitted applications online to make sure she wasn't lying. In her head it seemed like I was still willing to make this work, and a part of me believed this would finally be the moment that she would change. So it made the next part even harder for me and for her. At first I told her I didn't love her the same way, which slowly but eventually led to me saying I didn't feel anything at all about this relationship and was jaded. I was tired and wanted a fresh start with someone who was more goal-oriented, and wanted something more out of life. When she realized what I was getting at, she started to cry and asked why I didn't mention this sooner, and I said I've always asked her to cook, to go out with me to try something out, or to just go back to school, even when I offered to pay for her classes. Anything. She said she understands that part, but was upset why I didn't say it was leading to me losing interest in her, because from her perspective it seemed as if I still loved her all the same. She started apologizing, saying she wasn't in the right mental state and saying nothing was motivating her. And she genuinely had no interest in any hobbies. The only thing she liked was spending time with me, which is all she looked forward to on the day when I came home. None of this was really affecting my emotions besides making me feel uncomfortable. So I tried to continue by saying, I think her lifestyle would be better with another person, but she immediately cut me off and became more panicked. She started to apologize again for what she's done and said she would be a better girlfriend, that she would go with me tomorrow to wherever I wanted to go and would look for courses in August that she could start doing. But she did not want to lose me since she had nothing else in life and absolutely hated that I stopped loving her. There were so many tears and snot that I said we would have this conversation again when she calmed down, and we eventually did in an hour or so. She pleaded to give her 2 months to make a change and give her another chance, and promised that she would change. Again, she listed off all the places she would apply to and said she would be a better partner. I never wanted to make her homeless, so this seemed like a good settlement, even though I still had my doubts. I then reaffirmed that I wanted to see other people, but she seemed much more adamant on this issue than the aspirations issue that she would be able to fix this. She said just give her a month to try and make the relationship work, and asked me again and again on what she could do to make her love her again, and that she didn't want me to hate her. She said that this was the worst part of it all, in the only person that she had just done. It seemed as if she was about to break down again, so I said okay, we'll see how this relationship is in a month. In my mind, if I'm allowing her 2 months to get back on her feet, then by a month she would already be ready to move on. I also didn't want her to suffer a complete mental breakdown while I was still living with her, so giving her a month to let her fix the relationship would give her enough time to accept things. I slept on the couch last night and will probably continue doing so for a while. She came out at about 3 a.m. wanting to talk some more, but I said I was exhausted and we would do it tomorrow. She then slept on the floor beside me for the rest of the night, apologizing again. When I told her to stop, she silently said okay and sobbed for a bit under her blanket. But that's everything that's happened so far. This was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but I regret nothing and feel much better letting everything out. I don't know how this situation will be in 2 months, but I was firm that it was the deadline. This post will probably get buried, so I probably won't do another update since I don't think anyone will care about this in a week or a month. But I will definitely private message those of you who have been helping me through this on how it turns out, or those who just want to be updated. But yeah, thanks. Edit, for all of you who keep asking what my workplace is, I'm a RN. Update 2. I feel like this will be an easier place to post since it's my page and I don't have to worry about over spamming with small or inconsequential updates anywhere else, as it's only for those wanting to read. I want everyone who has privately messaged me to know I read them all, especially those of you who have gone through similar circumstances as me and have shared your stories. I've been doing some self-reflection and think I know how I want to go about this that will help with my lack of communication skills. I know I'm not a perfect person, but I still stand by my decisions I made that night 100% through and through. I might post an update sooner in a week or so, as the day after our fight I'm filled with a bit more hope than usual. Don't know how long it will last, but better make use of it. But again, I just wanted to post this for everyone sharing your stories with me privately, as I can't message you all, as it's been helping me make decisions on what to do about this all immensely. Hello, I have a partner who wants to start taking an interest in baking. She's a bit self-conscious and doesn't like asking or looking for outside help, and I'm kind of clueless in the subject, but I want to be able to find a resource to give some help for her. Are there any YouTube playlists or something similar you would all recommend to get started for someone who has little experience cooking as well? Update 3. This is a long post, and no, I'm not going to give a TLDR. Hey all, it's been about a week since my last post and I thought I'd give an update. A lot has happened, including the explosion of my first update thread. I have over 50 plus DMs asking me for an update, so instead of copy and pasting replies, I'll do another one. I find it easier to write than to speak in many situations, so this has been a great way to help my decisions and clear my head. Writing everything down has helped tremendously, and I will continue to do so until this is all over, and I will nuke everything afterwards. After the night confrontation, we didn't really speak all too much at home, with it being dry and awkward for a day or two, but I have been told I'm a workaholic by nature, so it was easy for me to stay at the hospital as a distraction. But in the time she did start to cook again, we weren't in the mood to go out to eat together. Eventually though, I sat down with her after she asked for a more thorough conversation on why I felt our relationship was failing. She promised not to cry or get upset, but wanted me to be 100% upfront so she had a better way of understanding, stating she wanted to try everything to fix this. I was really apprehensive about this and I can't really explain why, but given being together for 4 years, I wanted to at least make an effort myself out of respect, even though a large part of me was angry for even doing so, as I feel I've never had the same from her. There have been many different camps in my last update, the main ones being kick her out immediately and leave her before it gets worse, try to find a way to fix our relationship or end the relationship altogether but continue living with someone who would probably become absolutely neurotic. If I was going to let her stay for 2 months, I would absolutely not be dealing with that. I took consideration in all these main advice discussions and read through almost every reply. Even the most assumptive, bizarre and downright unhinged Redditor takes. More importantly, I took heavy influence from those who have shared with me their past stories, which either led to them being stuck in loveless relationships for years or eventually being able to overcome their problems and have an even stronger connection. Thank you again for your private messages. I read through a lot of your lives. Now for our conversation. She said she saw something on TikTok where couples put a phone on a table with a timer and wanted to do something similar, for each person to air what made them upset. I said that was dumb. If we were going to talk about our problems, it would be better if there was no time limit. She eventually agreed and said I could go first, asking me first when was the time that I completely lost my love for her. As I said before, it was never one action, but a grating feeling that got worse and worse until it got to this point, and I told her that, so she then asked when was the time I felt the most angry. I said it would take some time to think for me, and she said that was fine. After a few minutes, something came to mind. I couldn't formulate the right words at first, but it eventually just started to come out. I told her the worst time was when I was first starting at my hospital. To keep it short, the tempo was brutal. It was constant work with little to no downtime, as I was constantly learning new things that school would have never taught me, while being expected to be able to handle it as a professional. It was without a doubt the most stressed I've ever been, and I feel like other RNs can relate here. That year hardened the way I think now. That hard work does pay off, if you have the drive and the passion. I told her I think that was when I started losing feelings the fastest, seeing her at home doing absolutely nothing. Coming home to no food made, to her not working a job, to her not learning anything, completely stuck to the internet with nothing to show for it. I said it made me even more upset when I had given suggestions for jobs with pretty easy schedules, or to find a new interest in school that would pan out better than last time, only to be rejected at every attempt. I told her flat out that it disgusted me. She asked me why I didn't make this a bigger issue at the time, that I should have communicated this to her, but I said there's some things that shouldn't have to be said. I shouldn't have to remind her to wash her ass, eat, do something other than mindlessly scrolling on her phone for hours at a day, every day. I also told her that after coming home from the hospital during more stressful days, the last thing I wanted was to spend my time begging my girlfriend to do something productive, so I held my tongue and settled, as she was still nice and caring. I had no other reasons to end it, and so the resentment grew worse from then on. It was around here that I became more mean, to my regret now, but I will still input it as I have everything else. I told her that when she dropped nursing, I was upset since I felt that she was more than capable of doing what I had done. But after spending more time in the relationship, and spending more time getting to know her, I knew that with the type of person she was, there was no way she could have ever finished. Which is why I suggested easier and more laid-back jobs, less demanding majors for school. Shit, even if she just cooked or found an interesting hobby at that point, I would have appreciated it. Still, she chose to do nothing for years. It's just the type of person she was, and why I felt done for her romantically over time. She asked me if I hated her, and I said I didn't know. I told her she was very loving and kind, but I hated how she handled her life to this point. That I felt no ill will towards her after airing everything out, but I also felt nothing else. I just felt done and ready to move on. Throughout this conversation we kept eye contact, and there were times it seemed like she would break, but like she said, she remained as calm as she could while I said what I had to say. I told her I was done and she could say her piece now, but she asked if we could continue the conversation later and locked herself in our room for the rest of the day. The next day we sat down again and finished the conversation. She told me that she thinks she's depressed, saying that she didn't feel sad before that night, just had no motivation to do anything. I had a couple of messages telling me to ask her to get tested for ADHD, but when I started bringing it up, she was very adamant that is not something she felt comfortable with. I knew she didn't like needles or going to the hospital in general, but her flat-out refusing to get tested for disorders when I told her it was not at all like a regular hospital visit surprised me. She asked me if she was able to change her behavior. Would I give her another chance? I said I didn't know, as I felt nothing right now and didn't know if her doing it would bring any feeling back, especially since it took my breaking point to do so. She asked if there was any compromise, and I told her again, if in a month I felt like there was enough reason to stay together I would, but that there was no guarantee that my feelings would return. but I would match any effort she also put out. She was frustrated by my answer, but I said that's how it would be. She gave me a piece of paper to look at that she was working on last night that had a list of hobbies and interests she wanted to look into, the two major ones being photography and cooking again. She told me that she was looking into these while also showing me her phone, giving proof that she was putting in applications on Indeed and Glassdoor for some entry-level positions that she might get hired in. I told her if she was able to show enough passion or interest in these hobbies that she showed, I would not care about her working, just anything to improve herself. But if she didn't do anything at all, then it would be best to look for a new job to help her if she moves out. I've also been asked in private messages if I have any personal friends to talk to. There's two female co-workers I confide some information in given how many hours we work together at our hospital, and who I completely trust, as in my opinion they are extremely grounded. They both said I would eventually get love bombed and this would all go back to how it once was, and that I needed to stand firm with moving on. They're very helpful friends who have even offered to let me stay over for a few nights, giving the reason that I would fall for her manipulation if I continued being anywhere near her, in their own words. But it didn't feel right since I'm still technically in a relationship, but I said I would consider it if the situation worsened. But again, I find them grounded, so I always try to take their advice to heart. Despite numerous messages from you all privately or openly telling me that this will be a mistake, I want to make the attempt to give this one last try. Though I feel heavily closed and guarded and still feel indifferent with our current situation. But a lot of you have told me this can eventually change with enough work from both parties. I have also taken the advice of those saying to cut off sex, which was my intention from the start anyway, by continuing to sleep in the living room. But each day she has been sleeping on the floor right below me, even when I tell her I'd rather be alone with my thoughts, telling me this is something she would not accept. But that's everything so far. Next update will probably be at the month mark, as there's nothing else I feel like I need to say for now. Just waiting to see if things can get better now that we're working on this somewhat. I'm having an affair with my double and it's driving me mad. Athlete. I won't say which, it's one where you can play singles and girlfriend 2.5 years ago. I also made it but often have to be away traveling internationally to compete in tournament. Had a problem with it until the call Lucy. Who with, but that's it, she isn't my type. Conventionally attractive and most not me. Would find her more I think some of her gossipy from her, she shouldn't trust me going to without her there. My girlfriend spectate but usually can't because started reading into things that aren't there, and Lucy hugged each other after like what? It's on the team's social media, even the team looked tight. Reasonable things like asking me to see the coach's book A's in the same one. It's not to be with them. This explanation. A different doubles partner, which I ring, so to me would be like admitting that. Secondly, I am not messing with my titles because she can't get over her. During a recent conversation I had in the run-up to the Olympics, I will training with Lucy than ever before, saying she loves me but can't deny eyes and she can't do this anymore. Nothing going on and she stormed us for a few days. My goodness, I love her to trust me, damn it. I have no any advice on how to. Please don't ditch Lucy as a TLDR doubles partner I play at pro level and has listened to gossip and believed I am not. Any relevant comments? Comment specific mixed doubles events. I know tennis herrings are made from the people who have alts or non-mixed doubles. Wrong. So this isn't a. Why do you specific singles or non-mixed doubles? All three. There's no mixed doubles is to moment. Commenter action with another female. It's like co-workers. You guys, can you really blame her for not start a relationship with you and expect with another female? Together, the stronger that bond is, and it's because of your career, but whom connection with another person of career together. They would that. OP, she knew what she was signing up for, perfectly clear what dating and athleting that it would mean, training and put who are very physically fit. This until Lucy. Anyone really wanted an update, but after my girlfriend still again over the phone and she still did, so we agreed to end things. Off a couple of days later and then 3 weeks passed and she's telling me what a fool she had been and knew I wasn't cheating. That, and we had some pretty great makes solved. Then for light, very suspicious of this sudden, she went from being 100% sure I'm not like her behavior was also awful to me. She was never asking, completely fairly did before. Going home to a girlfriend who had my dressed up sexy for me, which was out, confronted her demanding to know why I did it at first, but then admitted that she was gone to get proof of me if she was right. When told her after his weeks of watch affair. This was a brief, so I told her we are over. She actually accepted this, quite kind to it. We then packed and left again, but I did seemed in okay spirits, enjoying. Told me she's getting therapy in the paranoia. And for me, I thought I would be really broken, quite happy and free. Looking forward to trying to get into the. Oh, and to those who thought not made any moves on me since no changes in our dynamic. TLDR, she came back claiming to believe me. A PI. We are both doing well. discovers an incredible talent just surprising everyone. Struggle to make friends. Constantly trying to help, but not hack it. Despite he is on the spectrum, Apple. I am slowly, but it takes a lot of face planting. He absolutely drives his products over and over and over. So much about Apple while I was driving, I ran over a cone. Oh, I entered the talent show. Expect him to proceed with, ever made. Usually it hurt feelings, but I simply watched my child commit social an absolute no and reminded him and that his classmates do not want iPhones again. He had no talent. I looked online at different talent show like anything he saw. This kid loves sounds that make me want to scratch. So I downloaded him and we found 6 songs that began mixing. He was leave how easily he took to it. He was able to echo out songs and sounds while waiting for the beat to drop with fading out the last song as watch, 6 minutes. We agreed that as soon as he isn't done, he will move quickly. We packed him mirrored sunglasses. His he went to school. His teacher was really excited out. Even if he ducked with this hobby and maybe enter in the comment, it went really great honestly. The kids said this is a moment she will told us she wasn't supposed to say this. It's when he walked like a light. I think it connected with the kids. Am I the A for leaving my boyfriend after nearly 2 years of dating because he bought lingerie for his best friend as a joke? My boyfriend, 28, and I, 24, have been together for a year and a half. I love him a lot, and he has been pretty amazing to me. He is also the sort of person who has lots of friends and his close friends are pretty much family. He also loves to joke and play these harmless pranks on his friends, which sometimes makes me feel weird. Just for context, he has 2 female friends and 3 male friends. This is about my BF and one of his friends, Claire, 28. Claire is a nice woman and we are friendly. My boyfriend also has never ignored me in favor of his friends or talked over me in front of them. Which is why I don't understand if I'm in the right. They, my boyfriend's friends, had a recently escalated prank fight. I had made it clear to my BF that I am not good at jokes and am rather stiff, and he said he would keep me out of it. Claire, my boyfriend, and another friend Kyle, 27, even had a huge throwing water balloons fight in Kyle's backyard. Then my boyfriend got pranked with dye in his body wash. Then Kyle got pranked by Claire, something about whipping cream and oven mitts. But the issue was when my boyfriend brought a red, lacy, lingerie set and he planned to put it in Claire's room the next time he went over. I said it was a tacky prank, and why would he buy lingerie? None of the previous pranks have been of this kind, and it makes me really uncomfortable. I also felt like if I was Claire, I would feel gross about it. But my boyfriend got mad and defensive and told me Claire is cool like that, and she would think it's funny. I admit, I get a bit weirded out when he calls Claire extremely beautiful and jokes about how she has always been way out of his league, but I thought it was nothing and they were like family, so I guess it was their thing. However, the lingerie prank had me put my foot down and I said that he was wrong to give another woman lingerie, no matter who, when he had a girlfriend. We fought and I said I wanted to break up, which he didn't want to, and I said that I was just overreacting. He said that I was too conservative and needed to open my mind when he had never given me a reason to be insecure. Claire called me and said that she and my BF have been friends for a long time, and inside jokes are just that, and I'll learn with more age. I still feel weird about this. My best friend is supportive of me no matter what I do, but I have started to feel like I'm blowing this out of proportion. My boyfriend says that the fact that he told me and didn't hide it from me shows that I'm the problem. I have started to feel like I've blown this out of proportion and maybe it's my fault I can't take a joke. I really feel awful about this whole thing. AITA Edit. The people asking what the prank is with the lingerie. Apparently, it's an inside joke about how during their college days she had some problems with the color red, and the lingerie would have just given her a shock of some kind, I guess. I told my boyfriend it was cruel, but he said it wasn't a trauma thing, just an inside joke. Claire also said over the phone that the lingerie thing was just an inside joke of their college days. Update. My inbox got flooded with DMs and had to turn off Reddit notifications. When I posted this, I was ready to be called immature and ridiculous and get a couple of comments, but it seemed like the post blew up, and the comments were kind of eye-opening. TBH, before all this fiasco, my BF has always been nice to me. Came with me to my grad school functions even though he found them very boring, but would do it so that I could network. He builds stuff like furniture and helps out with handiwork all the time. He is also very funny, and at the very beginning, I thought all his jokes were funny. And I sometimes wondered why he wanted to be with me. Plus Plus, I was always busy with school and job interviews. His mom and I had even gotten close, and she has been saying how happy she was that we were together. I had always ignored his and Claire's weird dynamic because I told myself I was being insecure. I have male friends too, and I thought that just because we aren't like that, doesn't mean my BF and Claire can't be close. Claire has also never been outright mean to me. She was just aloof, and I thought it was because I was new to the group. To the actual update, my BF and I broke up. I'm sorry guys, but even after seeing so many replies on how he was cheating, I refuse to believe it. I'm still in love with this guy. And he called me, like half a day after I wrote this post, and asked to meet. I met him, and he said that he understood where I was coming from. But I was always too uptight to understand that friendship is friendship. He and Claire had known each other for years before I came into the picture, and I cannot expect him to just ruin their dynamic. I asked him what sort of dynamic was red lingerie. Why couldn't it be literally any other type of clothing? He told me he had it with my insecurities, and that he and Claire talked, and apparently I was making them sound like cheaters and homewreckers, and that he thought it was better I found someone like me, who thought the idea of a fun night was junk food and a movie indoors. That hurt a lot. He had always known I had insecurities about being called boring. He always complimented me on how his weaknesses were my strengths. Now he says things like this to me? Also, before this lingerie fiasco, I had never said a word about his and Claire's friendship. I always supported his pranks and practical jokes no matter my opinions on them, because I thought it was his business what he did with his hobbies. And he leaves without even putting up a fight because his girlfriend didn't want him giving lingerie to the woman he constantly refers to as his sexy bestie. Claire didn't call or text after the breakup either. But Kyle did, and said that he was sad that we broke up and he hoped I would be okay in the future. I asked him if my BF ever cheated on me. He said that my BF had only been a one-woman man when he was dating me, but he could understand that some women can't handle female best friends, especially if they look like Claire. I told him to fuck off and blocked him. It felt like he only wanted to gloat and hurt me because my BF left. I feel like I never knew these people. Claire and Kyle were always at least decent to me, if not nice. Did it make me a free target now that my BF has been telling his friends I'm an insecure child? I don't know what to do now. I have been told repeatedly by both my friends and sister that I dodged a bullet, but I have been breaking down like a kid again and again. I'm even thinking of going to therapy, after feeling the most insecure I've felt my whole life. Thank you to all who were supportive. It seems like my now ex-BF just did the work for me. My girlfriend asked for an open, poly relationship. I said no, and now she's acting strange. What should I do? My girlfriend, 28, and I, 26, have been in a relationship for 3 years and a few months now, but not long ago she started sliding in hints before telling me that she wants to try an open or poly relationship. She asked about this before at the start of our relationship, and I thought that I made it clear that I was monogamous and not interested in that. Now she's asking again and saying how we could both even share a girlfriend, or we could be open and hook up with whomever. I told her no and asked her why she was pushing this again. She said that it could be a way to spice up our sex life, and I said something like, okay, well, I'm not into that, you know that. So no go. She got agitated and said to just try it, which pissed me off, and again said no. This conversation happened to Leal over 2 weeks ago, and she still seems to be pissed off about it, not really talking to me and sleeping in the guest room. I've tried to get her to talk to me about it, but she just brushes me off and says that it's not important anymore. I've been venting to friends about it, and a few of my friends brought up that maybe she's already cheated or is cheating and is trying to cover it up, or maybe she has someone in mind that she wants to bang. I doubted it at first, but now I wonder because she has been a little more distant and just overall off, even before the whole open relationship talk. We haven't been having sex as often as we used to, but I chalked that up to it being because of my hectic work schedule. I'm not sure what to do. I'm afraid that if I start digging that I won't like what I find. Edit. I'm going to either snoop on her phone or confront her about it. I love her, but I also don't want to be played with. If she's hiding something, I will find out. From the comments. Comment 1. If you're afraid to dig because you don't like what you'll find, well, that's understandable. I would be too, but it's no good way to live. OP replies, true. I've been debating if I could sneak her phone really quick. Comment 2. She's either already having sex with someone else or has someone she wants to. Did you know she was bi before you started dating? OP replies, I'm bi and she's lesbian, or as much as I know. She said that she dated a boy in middle and high school but started dating girls in late high school, if my memory serves me right. Update, it's super late but I'm numb, sobering up and just can't fucking sleep. This fucking sucks, but I need to get this off my chest and out my head. So a few days ago I posted about how my GF of 3 years asked me for an open relationship or to try a poly relationship. I actually got to sit her down to talk the next day after posting about it and asked her why she brought it up again. She asked in the past, in the beginning of our relationship, after dating for so long. She repeated that she just wanted to spice up our love life, and I asked her, how would that spice things up though? The only one who's gonna find it sexy is you, because you know that I'm not into that. She said something about how I should be open-minded about it because so many people wish they had a partner like her that would be okay with them screwing other people. I said, yeah, if they were into that, then I'd get that. After a little more back and forth and talking in circles, I just said, listen, if you want to screw someone else, then just say that. However, we'll be over. I love you, but if you want this, then you should go be with someone that would give you what you want, cause I can't. I thought that she'd be a little remorseful or apologize or anything but what she told me. I assume she thought that I just broke up with her because she just got pissed and screamed out, oh, so we're over? Fine. I've been screwing her guy friend. Anyways, and I'm pregnant. Yeah, my lesbian GF is fucking pregnant by a fucking friend of ours. My hands are shaking just thinking about this again. I tried to hold it together, but I just couldn't, and I tried to kick her out, but she wouldn't leave, so I left for a friend's place and have been here over the weekend. My now ex kept calling me, but I only answered and told her to get her shit together and move out and go live with the douchebag, who I deleted and blocked because I would lose my shit on him at that time, then turned off my phone. I turned my phone back on this morning and my ex left messages. I called her, to get closure if anything, and asked her how long. She said since December when I went out of town. I asked if they fucked in my bed and she said yes. I asked if this was the reason for the open relationship BS and she again said yes. Lastly, I asked if she was planning to keep the baby and still stay with me, and she said yes. I just hung up. I've deleted and blocked her on everything for now because I just need to distance myself right now. I'm gonna see if I can break my lease on the APT we shared, because now that I know that they've been fooling around in there, I don't want it anymore. For now though, I'm just chilling at my friend's and will probably be here until I can get out of my lease. I have no more tears left. I can't tell if I'm in shock or emotionally broken. I took some time off work, but I don't know how I'll ever get back to normal after this. Thanks for the advice from my previous post. I'ma try to get some sleep now. From the comments, OOP is advised to get tested and change her passwords, etc. In addition, the question of how the baby was supposed to fit into a lesbian relationship is brought up several times. Comment 1. Geez. She's a terrible person and you did the right thing pushing the issue. And I'm amazed and shocked that she thought you were going to be okay raising someone's baby. I'm so sorry you're going through this. OOP replies, thing is that I love kids and she knows that. If, and a huge if, this was an accidental pregnancy due to us being open, I probably would have stayed. It's definitely different in this case, obviously. I still can't get over how freaking ridiculous this is. I honestly wish it was a joke. Comment 2A. I mean, what was the plan here? Surprise. I'm pregnant. Like, how did she think she was going to explain that one without outing herself as a cheater? Comment 2B. I guess the plan was let's be poly. Whoops, got pregnant but you agreed to being poly, so you cannot be mad at me. OOP replies, honestly that's the only thing that makes sense to me. It was a dumb idea, but I guess it would have worked in her head. Comment 3. You might want to get a lawyer and research how child support works in your circumstance. The last thing you want to do is pay for this child. OOP replies, yeah, I'm safe unless I magically started making sperm and grew a member. This actually made me laugh a little because she kinda tried to make me a baby daddy. Laugh to keep from crying, as they say. New update. OP updates on her profile the 16th of August 2022, 1 month later. So first things first, thank you all for your support and advice. I really appreciate it. The good news, that night I posted my last update, I definitely wasn't in a good headspace, but I allowed myself to grieve for a few days, then got right to work. I went and got tested and I'm clean, no HIV or STDs, thank God. I went to my landlord and I told her the situation, as well as had a formal letter typed up just in case. She's always been a nice lady and was kind enough to offer me a cheaper apartment that I could move into easily if I wanted to, but I decided to just move out of this complex. So I'll need to pay this month's rent. My ex won't pay her half, so then my part of the lease will be officially broken. I don't know, or care to know, if my ex will break or take over the lease, but that's on her. I've already got a place lined up and will be rooming with another close friend of mine. Bad news, it was about a day after I posted my last update that my ex just showed up to the friend's house that I was staying at. I don't know how she found out, but we do have a pocket full of friends, so it's not that hard. I was under the influence and numb and didn't want to see her, but she kept pushing it and refused to leave. At first I came out and told her that we should talk outside, then I closed the door behind her. She still refused to leave, so I stepped outside to talk to her. Or she talked and I just stared at her. She started with apologizing and trying to put the blame on me being busy all the time, which, yeah, I was working a lot, but every free time I had was spent with her. Then she said we weren't having enough sex, then saying that the sex meant nothing with the guy, and then somehow it took a turn to her saying that now we could start a family without a paid donor. I just remember going off on her and calling her out for screwing the guy repeatedly and then trying to cover it up with some bullshit. She started crying and yelling back, but I told her to just go back to a baby daddy and tried to go back inside, but she pulled on my shirt trying to stop me and I sorta pulled away hard to get away. About a day after that, my friend told me that she posted about how she left me for being abusive and that it drove her into the arms of the father of her baby, along with pics of them together apparently. The douchebag even tried to back her up on that bullshit, but almost every mutual friend of ours knew what really happened by then and they absolutely blasted her until she took the post down. Goodbye and good fucking riddance to both of them. I only feel bad that the baby will have such immature parents. Other than that, I'll probably take some time to get away after settling down in my new place. I'm not gonna hold on to that pain anymore. I did love her with all my heart and thought she was my forever, but she betrayed me in a way that I could never imagine. She knew about my past relationship and promised to never hurt me the way my ex did. I guess she didn't lie about that since that ex never cheated on me, lied and manipulated, sure. I'm taking a break from love right now. Maybe I'll get a pet to start my healing journey from here. Refusing my boyfriend's threesome request led to a wedding drama and a shocking revelation. Am I the asshole? This is a throwaway because too much identifying info is on my main page. IF29 met my boyfriend Michael M35 at a show I performed in. I am a theater person as a hobby, and he complimented my performance and bought me a drink. We have been together now for a little over a year. His sister got married last week and I was initially pleased to be asked to be a bridesmaid, but also a bit surprised as she barely knows me, but I thought this was an attempt to have an excuse to also get to know each other better. Michael and I got into an argument the week before because he said that he wanted to entertain the thought of spicing up our sex life and having a threesome. He said since I was bi, why not? I didn't like the idea too much and said so, and it devolved into a petty Cold War and he started to ignore my messages after he left my place. He didn't reply to me at all until the day before the wedding asking what time he needed to pick me up since we can't go separate, otherwise people will gossip about us. He barely said anything to me the whole time we traveled to the venue. The wedding was fine, but at the reception he got me a plate and leaned in to kiss me, but I shied away and he got up to mingle. I started feeling ill not too long after and 911 was called. I realized I was having an allergic reaction but had my pen but still had to be carted off by the ambulance, and that's when someone who was looking for Michael said that he had left with some of the other groomsmen to a bar nearby. I called 6 times and texted that it was an emergency as I was getting checked out by the paramedics, and again when they strongly suggested I go to the hospital, but he never replied. I was released by the hospital and called him to ask him to pick me up, but he didn't pick up, so I woke up my best friend and she took me home and stayed with me overnight to make sure I was okay. The next morning Michael called me, but I was still asleep, so he left me a lengthy voicemail yelling at me that I ruined his sister's wedding and that I always have to make things about me. He came over to further berate me and told me he should just break up with me at this point as I'm dramatic and this is all too much, so I pointed out that he had gotten my plate, knew full well that I have a legit allergy to coconut, and that his sister had told me afterwards that he knew that the cake he gave me was the coconut cream cake, as all the food had signs saying what it was and what the ingredients were, as I'm not the only person with allergies that attended. He left telling me that he can't talk to me when I'm this way. I was honestly exhausted, so I didn't bother going after him. But his father called me to ask how I was doing, and after I answered he then told me how I'm hurting Michael's heart by blaming him, and Michael has been inconsolable since we fought. I texted Michael to ask if we could talk, but the conversation went back around somehow to the threesome and how I don't respect him even in intimate settings or want to hear him out regarding his needs and make things about me. I am so confused because to me this feels manipulative, but I respect his father so much. I go to their church and he is a pastor there, so to have him tell me I'm in the wrong threw me. Edit. A lot of comments are suggesting that this was intentional, and I've actually never considered he gave me something I'm allergic to on purpose, and certainly not to use against me to leverage in our argument. But I think I may have to come clean and talk to his parents. I know them well, so hopefully it won't go too badly. Small update. Michael texted me this morning to apologize. He said the wedding was stressing him out and he had a lot on his mind, so he accidentally handed me the plate he meant for himself, not the one for me. He said he didn't know I was in the hospital and felt bad he wasn't there for me, but he left the reception with some of the groomsmen to blow off much needed steam. I don't know how I feel about it all, so I just replied, okay, he is now asking to come over and talk this out in person. Second edit. For any and all of you calling me stupid or implying I am a child and why am I still with this guy, etc. Just know, you remind me a lot of him, of how he used to put me down and bully me, and it's a real wonder of mine if you treat people in your life like he did me. I suspect you do. Glad to be rid of him and indifferent about you. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Be honest. Have you, now that you are looking back, seen red flags like this? This behavior likely didn't just show up. Have you ever gotten ill after a disagreement with him? OP, oddly enough I am sitting with my BFF and she asked me the same question, and yes, actually. Our first real argument that I can remember, I was down with a stomach bug for almost a week and he visited me and made soup. Then the only big argument I can recall outside this one, he wanted to use labels really soon onto us going on some dates and I didn't, and the next morning, I was sick with chest pains and stomach cramps. I don't want to sound dramatic or accusatory, but since people have commented he might have purposefully given me something I'm allergic to, I just don't know anymore. Comment 2. NTA. The two of you are completely incompatible. He wants threesomes. You want to attend wedding receptions without leaving in an ambulance. OP. Okay. When I read this, I was with Bestie and we've been drinking, and the scream I scrumptious laughing so hard nearly killed me more effectively than the coconut LMAO update 1. Well, many of you were right, I should not have met him in person, but I did. He took me out to lunch insisting he pay for it all, and it was incredibly over the top. He had flowers and a written letter of apology, but as some of you messaged me, his apologies dodged the point by way of if I hurt you, or that you're feeling X or Y feeling, etc. He quoted some scriptures and said he has repented as his carelessness caused me harm. I wasn't much moved by any of it until he said how much his family loves me and how much our church roots for us as a couple, and I kinda sat back and realized that one flimsy reason I was even entertaining forgiving him and staying was because of the pressure I dealt with as the GF of a pastor's son. It occurred to me that there were so many times I let things slide because he is the heir apparent, so he had the power in the social aspect of our community. Sorry, I know I'm rambling, but I'm emotional and tipsy. I remember just staring at him and saying it was incredibly alarming that by now he can't be aware of my one-angle allergy, and that he didn't bother to tell his own GF he was stepping out with the guys, or even that he was stepping out of his own sister's wedding at all. He then said it was really actually kind of stupid of me to eat a cake that had coconut, and implied I'm an idiot for not realizing what I had was coconut. I realized then he would never accept that he was in the wrong, and thus there was no point. I stood up and smiled and said, "You know what? Don't worry about it. Thanks for dinner. Good night." To which he replied that if I wasn't going to grow up and accept his apology, I'm a waste of his time. He uses that a lot whenever we disagree, and it usually hurts me deeply, but this time it was like a Rolodex of memories flooded my brain, and I really suspect he's been deliberately making me sick whenever we disagree to teach me a lesson. I said I was done and he needn't waste his time with me from this point on, and left. I then sent screenshots to his father explaining the situation as best I can without blaming Michael for prior illnesses without proof, and I got a text about 20 minutes ago from his father. His father is incredibly disappointed in my immaturity and hurt that I wouldn't even give it until Sunday at church where we can pray together, talk it out and heal. I felt this way for a while, but I was able to say at this time that using religion as a tool of guilt is low, and I am no longer concerned with his version of God, as that version is a judgmental, cruel, and heartless jerk, while the one I always thought of was loving, compassionate, and kind, and I am done. I was told by him and by further emails that I am no longer welcome at my church until I reconcile with my true husband, and learn compassion and respect for my leaders. So I guess that's it. I will enjoy sleeping in tomorrow and eating coconut-free food, while lazing about my home rather than going to 3 separate church services starting at 8 a.m. and then figure it all out from there. I don't know how to sign off, but I do watch a concerning amount of Charlotte Dobry videos, and she usually ends things with practical shit like, do your laundry or something. So I will just say, live for yourself, feed your soul, and know you're enough. I certainly am going to put in the work to get there, and I hope we all make it to the other side, content and filled with love and joy. And by the way, F you, Michael. I know you are reading this. I know you know it's me, and I hope your socks are always just a little soggy. OP added in the comments. Here I forgot to add to my post, but I didn't want to bring the threesome requests into it. Well, I sent his daddy screenshots of some texts. If you'd like some drama, here are the top 2. It was the night I sent him home after he tried and failed to pressure me into sex. He told me that I was missing out and should be grateful since your body makes me sick, but my love for you is stronger. Would it kill you to be grateful enough to just do a HJ? And on his birthday, I had just been in the hospital after passing out from exhaustion and dehydration and went straight to his party. I stayed at his place until everyone left, and I left soon after helping clean all but the kitchen, and he said you could have cleaned the kitchen then or stayed over for sex. Then you're a waste of time if I don't even get birthday sex. Thanks a lot. And after both B suggested adding a third. His dad hasn't responded. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Holy crap, and you stayed with him? You poor girl, no one deserves someone like that in their life. But you didn't say if you told his dad about him sending you to the hospital and potentially killing you. Because we both know, and the rest of Reddit knows, that he did that intentionally. And if there was proof of him giving you that cake, you could probably send his happy ass to jail. OP, I didn't and don't have the best self-esteem. And here is the only black woman in the town that I've known of. I've always known that I'm considered less desirable. Not saying that's right, but just knowing where I live. Been here since my preteen years. When Michael asked me out, it was like a parade. Everyone acted like it was a Cinderella story and I won a lottery or something. I have a friend who I have been texting today, and she is letting me know how dumb I've been. I never told her of our issues, and is about ready to commit crimes. LOL. I think I lost myself for a bit, but I wanted to leave the church low-key for a while because of my treatment, so that helps a bit. Update 2. It has been a hot minute. I forgot about my posts until I was watching a YouTube video on Reddit stories, and the story reminded me that I never did update. I found a church in my city a bit more laid back, like we can go to the pub after and have a laid back laugh. I did like it and made amazing friends I'm still in touch with, but the going to church idea came from my therapist, and it was to see if I do identify with the church or the ideals of it, and I don't. So now I am back to being the heathen I am. LOL. My ex quickly moved on and he had a new GF within a month of us breaking us. Bless that woman, I thought, because isn't she in for a ride? Oddly enough, she reached out to me on my Facebook and I was curious and opened it. She started with who she is, how long she and ex have been dating, and how long they knew each other. Childhood friends, so basically forever. She then said that she feels convicted by the Holy Ghost to seek a resolution between me and ex, and she is worried I may be his true wife. And if I cannot forgive, then I am proving I am not, and to let her know as she cannot marry him until I make this clear. I shit you not. Seeing the screenshots, the chat with my new church buddies, my friends sent vomiting emojis, and that this is a cult and not a faith. I concluded they were right and replied with, yeah, marry him if that's what you want. And nothing more. I am getting messages from members of the church, but I don't much care. I've loved my life since leaving. I didn't know life could be so enjoyed really, and it makes me wonder how much damage the church had on me. But for now, just for fun, I am going to an appointment with a friend of a friend's apprentice on tarot readings. LOL. No, that's true. I was asked. No offense to anyone who believes in it, it's just not normally my thing, so I'm curious and interested. Maybe it will be good. I will know. Am I the A for ruining my best friend's wedding and losing our friendship because I wore a gold dress to the ceremony? I will link the dress. I put gold in quotation marks because I think it's more bronze orange, but maybe I'm splitting hairs and am TA. Some context. My 30F best friend Dan, 30M, got married to Lauren, 27F, yesterday. Dan and I have been best friends since high school, and despite always being platonic with no romantic interests on either side, his now wife Lauren has always disliked me. In their 3 years of dating, I have not been allowed to see Dan alone because she feels that it's suspicious that I want to hang out with him. Honestly, I just missed my friend. Despite me being happily married, she's always kept me at arm's length. I always figured this was because she's from a very conservative family. Dan has spoken to her multiple times, and after she'll back off for a bit before reverting to complaining about him being friends with a girl again. It's not ideal, but she makes Dan happy, so I made my peace with it. That brings us to the wedding. Originally I was going to be in the groom's party, but Lauren ended up crying, saying a wedding is not a place to swap gender roles. Dan was fighting her on this, but I told him I'll just attend as a guest, and not to choose this hill to die on. The dress code was warm tone garden party, and we were encouraged to wear earthy warm colors. I picked out a bronze/orange dress that I thought fit this perfectly, and the style even matched some examples they gave. In short, I thought I had nailed it. The wedding went great. However, at the reception, Lauren dragged me aside and said, I cannot believe you would wear gold to my wedding. You're not the first prize, you're just *** king trashy. I was so shocked the moment I just stared at her. She practically screamed at me to leave, and she was drawing attention, so I grabbed my husband, said goodbye to Dan, and left. Dan reached out after and told me he was upset I left his wedding so soon. Lauren's mom has texted me saying I ruined the wedding for her daughter and I'm stupid for wearing a gold dress. She's saying it's as bad as wearing white. I was genuinely not aware this was a thing. I want to reach out to Dan to explain, but I don't know if I'm in the wrong here. AITA, relevant comments. Any chance you or Dan have a crush on each other? I am happily married, and Dan and I would rather eat glass than have anything romantic happen between us. We are just not each other's type and see each other as siblings. I genuinely don't think Dan has ever secretly liked me either. Commenter, downvoted. While I believe you, I have to think Dan has made comments about you around his wife for her to go so nuclear on you. Not to be weird, but how would you rate your attractiveness compared with hers? Are you similar, or is there a big gap in your attractiveness? OP, that's hard to answer. We are two totally different people. I think we are both attractive in our own way. I am your Barbie stereotype 5'11", blonde hair with a six-pack. She's a petite brunette bombshell with a beautiful tan and a full figure. I'm also a good 2 inches taller than Dan, hence he's not my type, I'm not his. So it's comparing apples and oranges. But I do get your point. Commenter, have you and Dan ever had a convo about why you aren't allowed to be alone with him? OP, not just me but any woman. She doesn't believe in platonic friendships with the opposite sex. Why does Lauren's mom have your number? Can't you just forward that message to Dan? My guess is the group chat from the hens party. Lauren didn't have bridesmaids, and her mom organized the hens night with a group text chat. Honestly, my husband told me they were acting crazy. I just needed an outside opinion before I called Dan, so hubby said I should post here. How were you going to be a part of the groom's party if she didn't have any bridesmaids? She technically had her mom as a MOH figure, I guess. She stood up there with her and organized the hens party. But they were just going to go with unequal numbers, and in the end, he just had his brother there with him. Update. Wow guys, I genuinely didn't know what to expect posting to strangers on this, but I am so thankful to my husband for suggesting this. I needed a non-biased view on this wearing gold to a wedding issue, and now it's clear that that was never the issue. Many of you asked if the dress I wore stood out, and honestly I know I'm biased saying this, but I genuinely don't think so. Another girl was wearing the exact same dress but in a dark red, which we had a laugh about. Slip dresses are a pretty common wedding guest dress where I am, and it was the type of dress that was recommended by the bride. I think many of you were right in saying that it was never about the dress, but how I looked wearing it. I do want to start this update by thanking my husband who suggested I post here, and having a ball reading your comments since posting, and even posting a photo of us this morning with a caption along the lines of "my gold prize of a wife. I am winning in life thanks to you." Turns out Dan found out pretty quickly what actually happened and called me last night. Apparently Lauren's mom had told him I was really drunk and told Lauren her dress wasn't it, so I was requested to leave. Dan had his suspicions that it was *T, but it wasn't until his mom called him that confirmed it. Turns out she was nearby when Lauren pulled me aside and ironically was actually wearing a yellow gold dress, and tore him a new one about letting Lauren treat me like that. Dan didn't have a solution when he called. I could tell he was emotionally exhausted and pretty defeated. He said he wished I had taken it out on the open bar rather than leaving, but he understood why I left. He thanked me for taking the high road and that it hasn't gone unnoticed. He apologized for what happened. Apparently this is an ongoing fight between him and Lauren. For all of those who said Lauren just hates me, it turns out it's 100% true. Apparently, she has been trying to convince Dan to cut me off because that's what a good husband does. He said he thought she had gotten over it now that they were married. I told him that he needs to focus on his happiness and that I will always be here to support him, and that I will take a step back if that's what he needs. They were supposed to leave for their honeymoon yesterday, but when Dan called they were still at home, so who knows. I've blocked Lauren and her mom and forwarded the messages to Dan as recommended. Thanks again everyone for your comments and judgment. New update. So, it's been a couple of months and a bit has happened. The situation seemed to resonate with quite a few people, so I thought I would provide a final update. Thank you to everyone who has messaged. It did help me feel a little less crazy during this time. And to the person who let me know I can simply post an update here, thank you. I had no idea how this all worked. So, Lauren ended up finding the post on TikTok and was understandably pissed. She called me from Dan's phone and started screaming at me, saying I had ruined her wedding and that I knew what I was doing wearing a dress like that to the wedding. After the initial shock of expecting Dan and getting Lauren screaming, I yelled, "What kind of dress? The same cut that Amy wore? Someone else has worn the same dress but in a different color. F***ck, I just can't win with you. Dress nicely and I'm out to get you. Dress casually and I'm taking the P***ss. I've tried so hard with you but I'm done." And hung up. I messaged Dan, "I clearly can't be in your life with everything the way it is right now. Good luck, I'll always be a call away." Before blocking the number, which broke my heart. That was 3 months ago and I didn't hear anything except from Dan's mother saying Lauren wouldn't stop complaining about me, and life continued. In this time I also discovered I'm pregnant. Me and hubby made a post a couple of weeks ago announcing this, which is on its way to Dan, turned up at my front door a few days after. We talked over many drinks on his end and mocktails on mine. He told me that he always thought it was the right thing to do to listen to your partner's boundaries and insecurities, and that Lauren has a lot of body image issues which resulted in her being suspicious of other women, so he thought the right thing was to support her, but he got lost in setting his own boundaries when it came to how she controlled his interactions with his friends. He said the whole situation forced him to think about her boundaries and her own personal standards, and saw that they consistently contradict each other. Like, she believes, rightly so, that women are allowed to wear whatever they feel comfortable in, but she would complain that I was unreasonable for wearing bikinis to family beach days because it was inappropriate. Dan also realized she was trying to cut out his sister, and literally every woman in his life, including his boss, insisting he get another job. By the time he had heard about my pregnancy, he told me he didn't want to be an absent friend through this, and so had a serious conversation with Lauren. I won't go into details, but the result was that they are currently separated and both in therapy. Dan asked Lauren to move out, and she is currently staying with her mom, who is apparently convinced I am the devil. Whilst I am sad for Dan's relationship having to end like this, I am happy to see that he is starting to learn what a healthy relationship is and that he will be able to be my friend through my pregnancy. My husband is excited to have his gaming buddy back. I reached out to Lauren with Dan's permission, letting her know I'm here to talk in a therapy session if she felt like it would help, but I haven't received a response yet, and maybe that's for the best. I can't help but feel bad on some days, because I know that a lot of this is born from insecurity. But I'm trying to focus on the positives that both of them are in therapy, and hopefully we'll move on to bigger and better things. I'm sorry if this update is a bit scattered as well. Pregnancy brain has been hitting me hard. This update has been read and approved by Dan. OP's comment: thank you, we are very excited. And while I can't talk to Lauren's motivations, I do agree that whatever issues you are going through are not an excuse to push unfair boundaries. I am in awe of Dan's strength that he has shown in the last couple of weeks. If they continue their relationship, I know it will be on better terms for both of them.